Charlemagne was king of the Franks. Hugh Capet, Count of Paris, was elected king of West Francia in 987. All the French kings were Capetian descendants. Louis XIV was the Sun King, ruling for 72 of his 76 years. He inconveniently died of gangrene after botched rectal surgery. Much of the history of France, England, and most of Europe was one battle after another, including the 100 Years' War, which lasted 116 years, with occasional time off for lunch. Two key points were the brutality and high cost. The lust for territory and victory were paid for by peasants living at near subsistence levels and high taxes, making even subsistence difficult. L'État, c'est moi. The state, that's me. Louis XIV said this to the Parliament of Paris, his belief in absolute power. He ruled until 1715. Alliances with nobility and clergy meant not taxing the aristocrats and requiring tithing for the church. His Edict of Nantes abolished the rights of Protestant Huguenots. Once again, peasants and bourgeoisie, the urban middle class, paid the price. Versailles did not build itself. The French tax system was regressive, inefficient, and corrupt, used to support extravagant spending and wars. It started with the taille, a direct tax on peasants and the urban middle class based on land productivity as determined by corrupt officials. Customs duties were imposed on both imports and exports. A salt tax. Salt was a necessity and the tax detested. There were taxes on consumables like tobacco and wine. Finally, the sale of offices, including tax collectors. This added to the corruption and incompetence of bureaucratic officials, likely the most ruthless and nasty. Paris was strategically located on the Seine and made the capital by the Frank king Clovis in 508. It became a holy city when Clovis converted to Christianity. It didn't hurt when Hugh Capet, Count of Paris, became king in 987. Royal patronage resulted in Gothic cathedrals, including Notre Dame. Paris became an intellectual powerhouse. Versailles was expensive and unnecessary. A fortune was even spent on fountains, but no pipes were connected to the palace. The result was perfume instead of baths, chamber pots instead of flush toilets, an invention dating back to 1596. It was part of Louis XIV's effort to corral the aristocracy, plus his own comfort away from the bureaucratic madness of Paris. Extensive court rituals kept the aristocracy busy, pleasing the king, and living opulent lives. He also read their letters to prevent attempted assassinations or revolts. French education was handled by church schools during the Middle Ages, mainly in Latin. Universities were one of the great inventions, including the University of Paris in 1150, with Thomas Aquinas arguably the most famous student and teacher. Beyond theology and philosophy, university instruction added law, medicine, and the arts. Students received a license to teach after about 6 years of study. The French Academy of Sciences was founded in 1666 to encourage French scientific research with royal and university support. This was during the reign of the Sun King. Lavoisier discovered the conservation of matter, recognized oxygen and hydrogen as elements, and the importance of oxygen in combustion. Fermat and Pascal created probability theory. Descartes invented the Cartesian coordinate system. French Enlightenment philosophers included Descartes, Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, Montaigne, and Diderot. Satirist Voltaire advocated for freedom of speech and religion and the separation of church and state. Rousseau described the social contract for legitimate political order. Montesquieu described the separation of political powers. Montaigne invented the essay. Diderot produced an encyclopedia. Pascal invented the first digital calculator. Appert invented the tin can, actually using glass bottles. Pepin invented precursors to both the pressure cooker and piston-driven steam engine. Cugnot invented a self-propelled vehicle using steam, arguably the first car. Laennec invented the stethoscope. Braille invented Braille. Except for guillotine losses, French science and technology continued after the French Revolution. The brilliance was there, but not the necessary infrastructure. Turning invention into factory success was hindered by inferior property rights and rule of law, an incompetent tax system, plus the lack of a banking and capital markets system. Colbert and other French economists encouraged mercantilism to export goods for gold. Limited industry in silk, porcelain, and furniture were encouraged with royal patronage, but subject to the medieval restrictions like the guild system. French farmers, vintners, and cheesemakers produced superb products. Merchants moved the goods efficiently, and French chefs became superstars of haute cuisine. French food before the revolution will be the next video on food history and mystery.